Everybody reacts. Alright, Restream's got us. Twitch should have us next. Come on, Twitch. It still says offline. Okay, Twitch is getting us. And YouTube is getting a black screen. Hello. Nope, Twitch. Maybe? Okay, Twitch has got us. And YouTube has got us. Alright, 1, 2, 3, check. Here we go. Alright, so today we're going to put some of the things together I've been doing the last couple of weeks for this IFrame API to be used in Project 9x9. So last week I discussed with Project 9x9 some of the API capabilities. So now I basically want to create a test harness to kind of implement all of this and maybe clean it up a little bit. All right, so because I think the other thing is I haven't actually pushed any of this into the repo. So if I look at that, there is this settings. I think I was experimenting with the alternate download button. Oh yeah. Okay, I was just taking a look. I was replacing the settings with the download button to see if the download button is something I can use. Discard. Right. So I probably should have put the layout updates first, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand. I need both layout updates and the other stuff. All right, so we gotta look into doing all of this. Let's move this down here for a sec. Inside here, basically. And I think we'll start by modifying this to represent that. So that file is over here. And yeah, we also have the thumbnail thing, but we don't actually use that at the moment. So we're gonna look at the outer.html here, right? And we probably want to look at this in conjunction with that. So we have events that fire. Okay, so one of the trickiest part is going to be the initialization sequence. And I want to also build a small client-side API script to make things a little bit easier. So we basically want to have a function that says wait for ready, right? And the wait for ready will send a message to the frame, and under any circumstances, it should come back with either a timeout or being ready or whatever, right? And I think I'm actually gonna clone this one. Yeah, let's clone this one. I'm just gonna take this. Let me save. Yes. So test API.html. Let's do that. Test API. And it should be the same thing, right? What's going on here? Why is this so slow? Okay. Let me think about this. So basically I think there's 3 different ways that things can go. We're ready with the outer frame as this is loading, and eventually this will say, hey, I'm ready. We're ready with we're starting to pay attention after this is loaded. So we need to ping it and say, hey, are you ready? Or we don't know. We ping it, but this isn't ready yet. Right. So I think I'm gonna put some functions in here, and I'm gonna comment this out for now. I'm just gonna do this for now. Right. Nope. I'll save that. I want to save this. And I'm gonna get rid of these buttons for now, just so I don't confuse myself. Right. And we've got a handle message, and we got 2 message handlers. Data and data blob. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know how I ended up with that. but clearly that should go in here. Right, and we don't need that. Then it shouldn't dull up too much. All right, and the other spam is from the feature inside Sudoku Pad. Okay. So inside Sudoku Pad, and I think I'm just gonna bring that file over so I don't have to go back and forth here. So inside Sudoku Pad, what really happens? So let's forget handle message for a second, because I'm tempted to just lay dormant and waiting for a message from the outside. What it could do is it could kind of ping it like every 50 to... All right, I think I need to give Toby his meds. So give me a 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I'm currently the sole caretaker for Toby, so I have to manage him even when I'm streaming. Okay, where was I? Oh yes, okay, so there's basically two ways we can do it. We can wait for a message from here, but that only happens when we're freshly loading the frame. Or we can ping it, and we'll probably need to do that repeatedly. And then we kind of want to be smart on the inner frame, because one of the things I'm thinking, like, if I, let's say, ping quickly to avoid latency, so let's say every 50 milliseconds, I don't know how long it'll take for the response to come back, so there might be multiple pings getting queued up. If I have some sort of flag that indicates that the frame is being initialized, the API is initialized, so it ignores additional pings, then what happens if something from the outside kind of gets reset or whatever, right? So I almost feel like I need some sort of session ID, right? I need like, hey, initialize with random number 1234, right? And as long as it's pinging with the same number, it'll only respond once. So what would that look like from here? So we'll have some sort of, function API in it, right? And there'll be an async function, and it will create some sort of random, whatever. I think if I do math.random, nope, if I do so I do something like this. Yeah, so I can just use that basically. So if we do something like this, and here we'll do async, something like that. Console.log start. So if I do that, and I refresh that, it should just say start here, right? And then I can say await API init. We'll do a try catch. And it'll actually make a function async function test API, right? And here I'll just call that. So that's going to be this. Well, here we'll have API init. Then we'll call that from here. And we'll put a try catch around it. No, we got to do that in here because that's async handling, right? So we need it inside the async function. And then we can say console.error in test API error. If I do something like that, right? It didn't like my usage of brackets. Nope, it's the commas. All right, so I have test API, API init, and then we have a bunch of stuff in there, right? And then we'll say test API completed. Now I want to see where that happens. Here. Okay. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to basically await API init. And API init, we got to do timeouts and all that sort of thing as well. We'll probably just do something like this. Timeout 1000, right? And here we'll say opts, and then here we'll say const timeout. And it's called timeout ms. Equals opts, right? And you say equals 30,000 here. Something like that, right? So it's a 1 second timeout, and I think that's a good default. And what we'll do is we'll not release we don't return until we hit that timeout. And we'll do that. We basically need blocking calls. So we'll need our little sleep function. So I'm just gonna this one. Right? So what we'll basically do is we'll do something like let timeout ID equals set timeout handle timeout ms. Function handle timeout. And yeah, at some point here we'll have to wrap the whole thing into a promise, basically, as we're doing with this sleep. So basically we'll kind of do something like this. Return new promise. And we have resolve reject. Like that. And then this will be handled init timeout. Like this, it shouldn't return, right? And we get the timeout after 1 second. And then here we'll just say reject API init timeout, something like that. Parent test API init timeout. Right. And that's basically how we... Hey Chameleon, how are you doing? I'm a little sleep deprived because I'm currently taking care of Toby and it's so hot that I have to get up at like 5:30 in the morning and I get to bed at around midnight, so I haven't had much sleep for a couple of days. And it's starting to accumulate. Okay, so now we basically want to do kind of sort of a ping pong into this function. We basically want to do two things. We want to wait for a message. So we'll basically do some sort of handle message, right? So in here, we also want to do a handle message. Kind of like that. Right. All right. And then we'll just do that. We'll do this for a sec. I'll do this. I think the timeout needs to be set first. We'll do that. So we should actually get a message here, right? API image, handle message, message event name ready, right? So if we're getting a ready here, we basically want to resolve, right? Handle ready, right? And here we'll do a handle API ready. We'll put that up here. And then here we'll say if data.msg equals event and data.name equals ready, we'll call handle ready. Right. So that should hit handle ready and message handle ready. Okay. And now inside handle ready, we gotta disable the timeout, and we gotta unlisten to this message. Window dot remove event listener, and then we're doing a resolve like that. And then at the end here, test API complete should be here. Parent test API. And here we'll do test API by success. Success. So we should be hitting success, which we do here. And that is thanks to the handle message over here, which was the ready event. Okay. Now, if we don't get a ready event, for example, if we do a like if we do an await, so if I do an await sleep here, await sleep 500, for example, 500 milliseconds. So in 500 milliseconds, the inner frame should have already sent that event, probably. We got to do that. And now we're getting the timeout again. And now we're going to add the polling feature, right? So here we're setting the ready event and the loaded event. Okay. And I need to kind of figure out exactly when and where all the stuff goes. But we also need to listen to the messages, which I think we're doing here. Right. And we are we basically want to listen to some sort of init call. And now I was thinking is if I add that init ID, I could say, okay, if I get multiple messages with the same init ID, we can say we're initialized with this. And if we're getting a new init ID, we respond to that. All right, begin messaging. Data action, listen, unlisten, data.action. So now kind of comes the API part, right? So we want to do something like, we'll do let's say every 200 milliseconds just to try it, right? So here we'll do, we'll have that, right? And now he'll do something like let interval equals, right? And we'll do interval equals, we'll set interval, and then we'll do handle interval. And then we'll say every, let's say 200 milliseconds, right? And we'll do function, handle interval, right? And then he will just say handle interval, boo. And here we basically want to do a post message, which we're going to look at this, the handle button script, which basically does this kind of thing. So we got to figure out the target. All right, so I'll just make a little helper function, async function API post message, something like that. Selector, like that. Or target. Target select on our target. Right, and then we'll... Didn't I make a function for that? I feel like I should have made a function already here. So what we really want is a post message target message, something like this. Right. And then it's basically this, just without the add event listener. So target is that, target post message, target post message, right? And then he'll just say post message target message. Right. So we can just use that, not in here, not in there, in here. So we don't actually need to write this. And then here we'll do this post message. Our target is this. And we'll wrap up this API later. And then here we'll do action in it. Boom. If I do this, right, we should get every 200 milliseconds, so we should get 5 of these. And then we also need to do clear interval here. Clear interval ID. Now, before we call reject, we also need to do this. So function detach, right? And that's basically these 3. So we want to do detach resolve or detach reject. Or we do this as code on the outside. So we can, since we have these here, I think all of these, I'm just thinking because some of these need to be in here. Handle message, handle ready. Because I can move these two outside because we have references to these. This one, on the other hand, I cannot. and we still want to detach that under all circumstances. I'd like to move all of this outside, but obviously resolve and reject need to be... well, I mean, I could do this. I can do resolve fn, reject fn, right? And then in here, I can just say resolve fn equals resolve, reject fn equals reject. It's a little clunky, right? And then here we can say let res equals, and then here return res. The problem is if this is a rejection, it's a little odd. We can wait. What we can do is we can do a try, and then we'll, I think, finally, right? JavaScript try finally. Try catch finally. Try catch finally. So finally should always fire, right? So here we have res, blah blah blah. So then res becomes that. In fact, doesn't even need to do that. In fact, we can just return this here. We don't need res. Because finally should happen even when we're returning. So we can do this, right? And then here we'll do a finally. This reminds me of Delphi. And then here we'll do these. Boom, right? Boom. So we don't need a detach function at all. This goes in here as well. Detach doesn't need to exist. Handle ready goes outside now. And handle ready now calls resolve function. Right. Handle timeout now calls the reject function, which is assigned here. Handle message might as well bring everything outside here. Now calls handle ready, sure. And then handle interval can, yeah, might as well keep everything in the same spot. That goes here. So we have that. Probably want to do that. All right. And then remove happens here. And then the return happens here. So if I do this, I do this here, here, and here. This is a little odd. It feels odd because we don't have a return at the end, but that's just how it works, right? Sure. And then the result we're not actually handling, right? But where's the success? API init. Success. Wait a second. Okay, so we have... what the heck is going on now? So we have API init clear timeout. Yeah. Try. Because we don't have an await here. We need to do this. And I think we need to... no. Error and test API init timeout. Yeah, so we're getting the time as expected. We're getting 4 of these because the interval doesn't fire once at the start. But we do want to call it once at the start. So we want 5 of these, right? In fact, we're not going to get 5. No, we got 5. Right. Yeah. And now, if we look at the other end of this communication... here... default console.warn unknown action data invalid data. Boom. Handle message. Where are our... Wait, where are our interval calls now? Handle timeout, handle message, handle interval, handle message. Why are we getting the ready message now? Ah. Handle interval, handle interval. So handle interval should send the init action. Oops. And the init action comes back with... It shouldn't exist, right? It should hit the default. Is it without the colon? Default. Am I getting default wrong in a case statement? I'm pretty sure I'm not. Wait, what? Is it not default? Default colon. Okay. What's going on? So handle interval. Feature 9x9 handle message doesn't... It never hits this. What's going on? Post message. Okay, so maybe there's something wrong with post message. Maybe my selector here is incorrect. Wait, what? Invalid data. Okay, now it works. What? Very strange. Maybe a caching issue? Maybe. All right, so we're getting invalid data on the init call. Now, like I said, we wanted to add an ID. Now the thing is, I might be barking up the wrong tree here. Is it safe to return to every init action with a yeah, we're ready? It probably is, right? The question is, can I get an init call before we're actually ready, right? Because the ready event already got fired here. Let's log something out when the ready event happens. So we have loaded here, and ready is here. So init messaging is when ready happens. So that's really early on. So when we're sleeping, we're not going to miss it. So if we're not sleeping, we should be hitting it before. So handle interval, init, and then eventually init is gonna happen here. Handle interval. Okay, it's because we're getting our other message here. So, all right, if we ignore that for a moment, so if we basically just not do that, then init will happen here, but it won't happen here. So internally, my question was in my brain, could we get an init between, like, when we're ready, but the ready message hasn't been sent yet? I don't think, well, we can technically, because the message will take fractions of a second to pass. It's asynchronous, right? But effectively not. And the problem is it a problem if it hits that edge case? Probably not. I guess all we have to do is not listen to messages until after init has been sent. Yeah, ready gets sent first, and then message comes... Handle message happens first. Basically, I'm saying, okay, between here and this line of code, because I'm really kind of worried about putting in a small, like, race condition. Like, between post message happening and post message arriving, is it possible for something to happen? In other words, Well, okay. What I know for sure is that these are happening in the same place, which means whenever we're getting a message, we are also ready. So init can always return, yes, we're ready, right? So we can do something like case init, and then we'll just do this message stump. What's the return message call? So we'll just do this post message. And we basically just send the ready, like a message ready on init. And we just ping back, oh yeah, we're ready. So the moment we're getting ready, we don't even need to handle another kind of message. Init just triggers that message again. And we can make the interval relatively short because it's not expensive to do that. So for example, it hits 7 times because we're 7, really? 7 times. 1 second, let me switch on timestamps. Where is timestamps? It's what? This is not the right set of. It should be here, right? Did they change this? This looks different. It used to be 2 columns. Where are the timestamps? Console times. Okay, here it is. That was weird. So, we're starting here. We have a timeout of 1000 milliseconds. We have a handle interval of 50 milliseconds. We're hitting here. Load it. Load it. Ready happens here. Shouldn't ready happen before loaded? This feels strange. I'm pretty sure ready gets posted before loaded. Loaded. And message event loaded. Why is it not getting the ready message? Are we once again looking at cached stuff? How can we get loaded before ready? Let me do this. So handle interval, post message loaded, post message ready. How does loaded message post before ready? What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. Where's my post message function? If I get a stack trace out of this, where does loaded come from? 505 handle loaded. Handle loaded. Oh, wait a second. Where does this get initialized? Unloaded. And where does ready come in from? Oh, init messaging. Wait a second. Where does init messaging get called from? Wait a second. Yeah, okay. I'm kind of initially, probably because I have a bunch of testing code in here. Yeah, I'm setting up the layout. And I tied this into that. So I think the messaging should have its own loaded event that's not tied into this. Yeah, so handle loaded actually gets fired twice, which is what I'm seeing here. We kind of want to remove that actually. And now we have the ready event. but we don't get a loaded event. The question is, do I want to... Because on ready, the puzzle isn't necessarily loaded. All right, we'll deal with that separately, but we basically need to inquire on the puzzle. We don't, the same what we do with init, we basically have to do with the puzzles themselves as well. All right, so handle interval, and then eventually ready happens, and then we'll clear all that. And we don't really care if the handle ready happened because of our polling or because we were just listening at the right time. So if I go back to sleeping here, then the handle interval is gonna just fire, just basically return, like fire once and return immediately, right? So test API completed from test API start is 500, is 500 milliseconds? Seems like a long... Oh, because the sleep is inside here. Yeah, okay. So we want to basically do this. This to test this and have the sleep out here. So now test API completed from test API start 21.9.12, 21.9.13. Yeah, it basically comes back immediately and all this stuff happens at the same time, more or less. Okay, cool. So that's our finally. Rejection just gets handled on the outside. That's over here. Yeah, and the rejection we can simulate, I think, by putting the sleep over here. Like if I do this, it'll get rejected after 1 second. No, because the test API hits. But if we skip it by putting that here, then after 2 seconds we should get a no. Ah, all right. Actually, the way we want to test this is by making this timeout really short. Boom, immediate timeout. Okay. That works. All right. So we don't need that anymore. We don't need that. All right. And already. Handle interval. Opts, and then here we have target. Okay, why does it double these up? Just use this target over here. Like that. Ow. Handle ready. I guess resolve function can just go here. There's no reason putting handle ready there. You can just do that. And then handle timeout. Sure. And that's it, right? These 3 functions, and that's our init, and it's all async. And we don't actually care about the IDs and all that sort of thing. All right. Now the question is, do I want every call? I was thinking about making every call async like that. So basically, if I ask for a thumbnail, it'll do that asynchronously and comes back with a response or a timeout. And I think it'll make it easier to run the API and kind of make it all work correctly. And then if I look at some of these calls, most of them will just come back with a response. Yes, okay, we're good. Like a little round trip, right? So the flow would be, we'll start with the handle init, no matter when. Like it can happen much later. We don't really care. Like I can literally have a button say, hey, let's init, right? So let's try something like a load puzzle call. So for example, API init, and then we'll do async function API load puzzle ID, or we'll do opts, and I'll probably then have some sort of helper function. Maybe once the timeout is set for the whole API, you know, I'll probably turn it into a class or whatever, right? But for now, we'll just pass in these separately each time. So then we'll have puzzle ID. And then we kind of want to do, in fact, the timeout handling, we'll want to wrap that. So API timeout, API call with timeout, API timeout. So this will have a timeout in MS, and basically what exactly an action it takes that it times out on. I'm just trying to think something that I can wrap any of these into, like a start timeout, end timeout, or something. I think it's fine to just wrap something, right? So we'll have a function in here, right? And we'll kind of clone this whole thing for now, right? With timeout ms and the function. We don't have interval. We have API timeout. That's our error condition here. We don't have that. Don't have that. We'll have the function here. We'll do an await fn, or basically resolve fn, await fn, whatever our function is, right? We have our timeout. We don't have an interval. We don't have these things. Okay, let's see what happens. So we're passing in a function that has to be async. And I guess we can put that in here now. We don't need all the other stuff. We resolve on that function. We'll start the timeout before, and we'll clear the timeout after. Don't need to reject fn. We can just do this. We don't need to resolve fn. Right? So that should work. We're just returning. We're waiting this thing. Do we need to wrap it like this? Yes, because we're relying on set timeout in here. And handle timeout is just a rejection here. I mean, yeah, it almost doesn't deserve having all that. And then here we're just clearing the timeout. So first of all, let's make sure I'm not breaking something by just having this exist. And I did somehow. Await. Can I think I can just do this, right? I don't need to wait on that. So now instead of this, let's create a clone of this, make this 0. And now we're gonna get rid of all the timeout stuff. So here we're gonna now call API timeout. We'll do return, wait, API timeout, timeout ms, and then a async function, which is this promise basically, but minus the timeout stuff. So minus this. Everything else is the same. We don't need that. And we don't need that. API timeout. It's not passing in a function, it's passing in a promise. I do this, right? Still doesn't like it. Passing in a new promise. Oh, need an extra brace here. So, and we wanted to force the timeout. So if I take this off and this, or this can stay on, and now it should eventually time out. One second. API timeout. No error. Okay, API timeout is called. Timeout already gets set. This is our reject call. We have a timed out message, and now we get a timed out after a second. But that doesn't seem to affect this. Await API timeout. Return await new promise. Resolve reject. Timed out reject. And what happens? Timed out is the last thing that happens, but somehow this thing just nothing happens, right? Is it because I cannot reject that from the timeout? Is that why? Like, I cannot kill any of these things from out here. Because I don't want to have to replicate the timeout mechanism for every call. The timeout, the API timeout should throw an exception. Let's try something here. Catch error. Right, so we should end up here. This is where we should end up after the timeout. We don't. Okay. We should end up here. No. So this promise doesn't get rejected, even though the timed out gets called? Oh, because resolve await. Await res. Await. I do await. Can I just await? Oh, so we do need a function, otherwise we can't await it. Okay, we can't await a promise. Wait, what? Can I just make my own function here? Await async. Like, can I just do this? Await is, oh. So, if we're doing this, we'll have API timeout here with a pending promise. The heck? Shouldn't we end up here? One of these? Something should happen, right? API init finally. So we're hitting API init finally. Should be also hitting API timeout finally. Okay, but that means this is immediately Wait, I should be able to await a res, the promise. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay. So now after 1 second, it times out. And if I listen to the ready, it won't time out. Okay. Now this is much simpler, right? But at least it's abstracted away. Is it simple enough? We're just passing in the promise. Yeah, because we don't need that. 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 Don't need... Oh, we do need the interval. We don't need the timeout. Right. And I'm thinking I can actually put all this in here now. Like... Oh no, because we had this in the finally out here. Ah, but we could put this all out here. Like, what I'm thinking is, if I do this, and then we'll just say res equals, right? And then we can put this down here, await res. Right? And then all of this stuff can happen after this. Like this shouldn't be blocking now. Because there's no wait in here. Right? It is blocking. Does it hit this? It's gotta hit something. Oh yeah, here we go. And then the result comes out here. We'll just add a finally block here. That should hit as well. Okay. And if we time out, i.e. we don't listen to the message, timed out, finally, test API error, test API finally. Yeah, okay. So this sets up the timeout on this promise. Is there... It feels like it's anti-async now. It's not async any... Well, it is async, but it's kind of breaking out of the async mechanism. This can happen here before we set all this up. No, I don't want to do these because they could then trigger before any of that stuff happens, right? Although post message isn't problem. Neither is this. Yeah, not these can't actually trigger until this code block executes. Can I simplify these things here? So handle interval is here and... Oh, wait. I lost the set interval. I somehow lost the set interval call. Well, it's this, right? That starts the interval stuff. This just sets up us waiting. The question is, do we actually need these? Resolve and reject function. Reject, in this case, can't actually happen in here. The timeout is the only rejection, right? So this simplifies to this. Right. This is so weird. Can I? So now I don't actually need res anymore. I can once again await on this. We can just do this. And that just adds the timeout in. And I'm guessing we could wrap these functions the same way. All right, handle interval, no interval. Yeah, there's no point. let's put these inside the try, just right. And then handle message. Yeah, let's just make this the same kind of syntax. These aren't even async. All right. Reject, resolve. Reject, we don't need anymore. Resolve and interval ID. And the interval ID needs to be in this scope. And the resolve function, well, not technically, but it's fine. Okay. All right. And now we can reuse our API timeout function. Other API calls. Hey, Chameleon. Ooh, bunch of messages. Oh, top fan. I'm not calling resolve. I'm calling it after res has returned. Unless you're referring to something I already fixed. Because you're calling it from a regular function, not from an async function. Yeah, I think I fixed all those things now. All right. So, oops. We'll just need that. We'll have that. Resolve. Do we want to return res? Not really, because there's no result here, right? We're just awaiting for that. Yeah, there's no result to return. Res is just what we're waiting for. I wonder if, is there a way of pulling res out of this? I almost feel like I don't want this at all. Like, because I guess I don't need to resolve here. This will just trigger an exception after 1 second. I don't even need to clear it up, but I don't like that, right? Because if I had this just trigger an exception, but we're actually exiting out of here, then that exception getting triggered after the fact won't matter anymore. It won't retroactively cause an exception, right? Although we still need to wait. Wait a second. Okay, so we're exiting the timeout by resolving this. So we do need to pass it in, because that's how we tell the timeout we're done, and we're always waiting for the timeout. Okay, that's how we short circuit it. All right, let's, if there's a flaw in this, I'll probably figure it out with the next API call. So let's do the same thing with this. So now, kind of want to try to do this again. So we have a clear finally, we have a return. So here we don't even need the await. We want to do something like that. We want to do something like that, right? We don't need to do this here. We want to do the timeout. Okay. And here we basically want to do whatever is needed to load a puzzle. Okay, which I have a test code for here somewhere. So something like this. So we want to do this and this. Boom. Right. And here we'll probably do something like const API opts equals. Boom. Okay. All right. And then here we'll do object.assign API options and puzzle. Oh, short ID. What's that? Right. And then we'll do API load puzzle. And I don't think I want to capitalize the P. Load puzzle is the... Nah, that'll be confusing. We probably want to capitalize the P. So we'll do that. And then here we'll do console.log. We'll do that. Fine. Like that. All right, so what happens? So we did the init. Invalid data init. Why is that? I thought I had added that. Invalid data init. Oh, because it's not breaking. Right. And then we're hitting API timeout. Did I shorten the timeout suddenly? API timeout promise pending. Starting app. It took a whole second? Error API time. Okay, so I think it's timing out because we're not actually getting a response from the load puzzle. The load puzzle is happening, right? So now we actually need to listen to a response here, similar to the init here. So we'll have a handle message. So I think we kind of need to do the same thing. So we'll do a handle message here. Boom, boom, boom. Like that. And then we'll kind of have to do this. And this, same as there. And we'll probably eventually wrap this as well. So suddenly we'll say, hey, you make this call and you wait for that return call, right? API load puzzle should be here. Handle message loaded. Okay. So we kind of want to do loaded. And now I'm realizing loaded should probably return which puzzle has been loaded, right? So, loaded happens. Loaded here. All right. So I'm not sure if we can just get the short ID back out of here. So I think we actually want to do app. And then on app, we can look at current puzzle and hopefully extract the short ID that's just been loaded. Maybe not. So, because it would be nice if we could just say, hey, this is the puzzle that's been loaded. But I don't see right now when we're loading the puzzle. So puzzle load currently executes message load puzzle, which sets the puzzle. So is there a puzzle ID here? It's on puzzle, not on app. This puzzle ID, I'm not sure if that's equivalent to the short ID. Puzzle ID, yeah, it's not equivalent to short ID. 1 second, let me clean that up a little bit. It's just being set data short ID. Okay. So what if I say something like this dot puzzle loaded to puzzle this dot load puzzle ID that, right? And then we'll say that. And then we can just return that. And then this load puzzle ID. So we'll just say something like short ID. And then we'll have to figure out if that, like, this might be broken because loaded will trigger on any way that puzzle might be loaded. So if I like load other puzzles through different methods, I have to see how we're gonna validate that this is actually representative of the puzzle that's actually being, that triggers the loading event. All right, but now this should have the short ID in the response, and we should be able to say something like if data.message equals event and name equals loaded and data.short ID equals puzzle ID, then resolve fn, right? I think we can just get rid of data here. All right, and then this should return as handle message, blah, blah, blah. And that's our resolve. And then that should not time out, but it does. Okay. It should not time out. Hey Shelby, how are you doing? Okay. Which timeout are we waiting for here? Okay, this isn't happening. After API init, okay. API load puzzle. Post message loaded. So API handle load message should be here. Okay. Is that not matching? Resolve false. Wait a second. Event is message is event. Name is loaded. Short ID should be that. And puzzle ID is that. Oh. I don't know why I'm using puzzle ID here. I'm an idiot. Should be that. Target that. Now resolve is still false. What? What are the odds? It should be that ID. Z9, blah, 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 blah. False. Messages event. Name. God damn it. Hey, look at that. It's true now. Ooh. What did I do there? Puzzle ID is not defined. Where am I using puzzle ID? 79. Oh, awkward. All right. Okay, so now we can say something like console.time API load puzzle. Right, and we can do the same thing with API init. right? Now we should get timings for these asynchronous calls. So that's 40 milliseconds for the load puzzle and 493 milliseconds for the init. That's interesting. If I sleep for, let's say, 300, does that reduce that time? So is that just the loading time for the puzzle itself? App init is now 200. If I sleep for 400, app init now is 100. And if I sleep for 600, then app init should be very short. Okay, so that's actually the time it takes for the frame to get loaded. So 1 second on the timeout is actually a little short. And I think the default for that should just be up here. So we want to do something like const API or default, no, API default timeout ms. Like that. Boom. All right, so like this, we should be able to do these kind of interactions. So now let's say we want to do something similar with get thumbnail, that kind of thing, right? Let's have a look at our API calls. So for example, create thumbnail, or let's try something simple. Let's say we'll do a set digit, right? So I did some testing with these calls, right? So we'll have something like this. And again, later on, these calls will probably be kind of merged and simplified. So we'll do an, let's clone this for a second. We'll just say set digit, right? And then here we'll do RCV. And it's basically going to replace the, whoops, going to replace the post message there. It's going to be action digit and then RCV, whatever the RCV is. I'll leave this out. So then here we basically want to do the same thing, API set digit. I'm just going to do this for a second. Right, and then here we'll do RCV, or row 2, column 2, value 7. Is that our RCV? Yeah. Okay, so that goes through, and then it times out because we don't have the call and response on this yet. So if we have something like, and I'm gonna separate sort of this kind of early mess with what I'm actually going to use here. So load puzzle actually already works, so we'll move that under init here. And then digit, which will go here. And then here, we'll basically want to post a response message, right? And then instead of event, we want to have a result, or result, action digit. We just mirror back the data. I guess so. I mean, by mirroring back the by mirroring back the message that we received, so we could literally do this, right? We could just say message result data, right? And then we would know for sure. Where's this data blob coming from? Data blob. Data blob. I don't want to put that. frame script type of. See if we can get rid of some of the spam here. All right. So at some point here, we should get a message from here. Handle message result data. Yeah. So we now need to see if we can actually compare that to the incoming message, right? Data handle message data. So API load puzzle. No, not API load puzzle. This is API set digit message. Do we not remove that from here yet? No. So API set digit should get a handle message result data. All right. So we'll want to say if msg equals, or let's just output that for now. msg equals result, and then I need to come up with better names because data is the argument on the event, but it's actually what I call a message, and then the message has a data. What do we call the incoming data? Instead of data, we'll just call it, because also calling it message when that's actually the type. So this shouldn't be message, this should be type, right? It should be type, result. And then we can have data generically. Of course, it's data of data, right? But that's actually a problem we can solve elsewhere. So now obviously we'll get multiple timeouts. I'm also realizing I need to label the timeout. I guess I can label it by doing that here. So for example, if the timeout happens here, I can just catch error console dot or row new error API init error. If I do something like this, right? So will this time out? Or will it time out down here? It could time out in either one, right? So now our timeout error should be labeled API set digit. Yeah. So API set digits now gets timed out because we changed what they're called. Why are these not getting confused? These shouldn't be working either. Well, no. Let's see how these are not getting confused. So handle message. API init handle message. Let's see. API init handle message. Message event name ready. Okay, because I haven't actually updated them yet. So instead of message event, this should be type. Okay. And now, yeah, now they break. Now I update them and then they won't break anymore. So that should be type. Should be type name. Right. This should be type. Data is not defined. Data type name. Where's data not defined? 56. Data is not defined. Oh. Okay. Okay, set digit still timing out. So these work now. Set a digit, message result. All right, and we have data. We'll call it M data. Right? And we'll also have M data. So M data dot or action RCV action CV, and we want to do action equals digit and RCV equals CV. What's the RCV? That should be true now. And that's our thing, our trigger that this is good. So if message equals result and this and that, then we'll go there. Now, the loaded isn't currently coming back as a result message. So I guess we changed that to being a result message. The thing is, the puzzle loaded event is separate. Load puzzle, solve puzzle data, console.error, MSG load puzzle done. Let's see when this fires. Is this around the same time that our loaded event happens? Post message result data, no. Event loaded. So the loaded event actually happens earlier. So what if we just do this here? And we'll say this dot post message. So we'll do the same thing as we're doing here. Or better even, kind of do this here maybe. So we'll do await this, right? And then we can do, put that here. And then we can do result. Data, I suppose. Type result data action load puzzle short ID. So now we can listen to the message over here the same way. So instead of waiting for the loaded, custom thing, we'll look for this generic result message. So action is so action is actually load puzzle. Load puzzle. And then we'll look for short ID. Was upstart short ID instead of the loaded event. That should still work. Message is not defined. Type. Did I not change that here? Action is not defined. Am I sending back action? Yeah, it's got to always be action, right? So it's not, yeah, because we're no longer looking for an event. So we have action and short ID. API load puzzle is coming back broken. All right, let's just highlight that. It'll be easier to see. So API load puzzle handle message, event name loaded short ID. Yeah, no, we don't care about this. We're caring about result. Handle message result data action. Date. Okay, so it's not type. Yeah, type. Oh, it's nested data. Okay, data nested. Yeah, it's a bit awkward. one more. All right. Okay, so now type and data. Hello message. API load puzzle handle message. Can I find a cannot read properties undefined. Reading action. Okay, all this nested destructuring isn't gonna sit well. So I'm gonna pull that out of there. And then we're just gonna do this. It'll be easier to debug as well. So handle message, event name, short ID. Okay. Blah 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 blah. This destructuring doesn't work. How annoying! How annoying! If all right, I'm gonna have to have some sort of result comparison thing here. So we want to do something like function API check check result, right? And that'll be just zip data and expected, right? So if data dot type equals result, and this is gonna be such a pain in the ass. And oh my god, what am I looking for? Object dot entries, right? That'll do something like this, and we'll do a reduce object dot entries dot expected dot reduce or dot is it sum or any? MDN, nope, MDN sum. You know what I'm trying to do, right? I'm just trying to say, hey, if any of them don't match, come back with whatever. Sum, is it any or all? Every method for is all elements of an error persist test implement. Okay, so array pass method all elements in the array. Okay, so dot every, and then for each one, what we're getting the element, the index, and the array. Okay, and the element would be prop val, and we'll say expected prop equals val every turn, boom, right? So if I can do this, let's block this out for a sec. And that'll be works, but it's another handle message that fails the one inside API set digits. Yeah, I gotta do one at a time. So data dot, now we want to pass in data as is, and then expected oh, what am I doing? Equals expected. No. Data dot data prop equals val. That's what we want. And we want to know that data dot type equals result. And right. And this wants to be protected. And here now we want to compare it to action load puzzle and short ID. Right. And this should be API check results somewhere here. API message, load puzzle, properties of undefined, reading action, action, load puzzle, short ID. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, that's what I want to get rid of. So cannot line 77 data cannot read. What are you talking about? Line 77. So type event. Oh, triple equals here. So we have a check result of false because it's a loaded event. That's good. Message load puzzle done shouldn't happen though. How message load happen? Message load puzzle done. Oh, okay, wait, that's on the other side. So now we get a result message and API check result is true on that one. Okay. So now we should be able to do the more generic if API check result and resolve FN. Boom. All right, and now we'll basically want to do this. So we'll say message equals that. So post message, message, and check against message. Boom. Right? So API check result. And that should come back true. So we'll just do something like this. This equals turn res. Res. Boom. So check result here is true, is false for this event, and then it's true for this one. Excellent. Right. And then we'll do the same thing here. It's this. Then we just post the message, and then we'll check against the message. Boom. Now we can get rid of all this. And I'm starting to see, yeah, these are all the same. Right. Is there another difference? API? Not really. So we basically want to do do this async function API action. Right. And then we basically more or less do kind of this, right? And then we'll do we'll do message equals a clone of options, but delete message dot ms message target, or we do the message as a separate thing. So we'll just API send message, right? We'll have the message here. We have the options there. Don't need to do this. Handle message now is check result versus message, resolve, target, send message, and that's it. Right? So now this in turn becomes, we'll do this, options, and then we'll do this. Right, and then here we'll actually just have short ID. We don't have that. We don't actually have that either. Don't have any of that. Then we don't have any of that. And in fact, we don't really need that anymore either. So now we can just say API ops and this. Boom. And then we'll do the same thing for set digits. Digit. Boom. And now, short ID is not defined because I deleted everything. Okay, messages puzzle done. I think we can rid of that now. Boom. Okay, API check result we can also now get rid of. All right, now it's slowly turning into what I wanted from it. Yeah. Okay, so now we don't actually need these separate calls at all. And we'll probably want to change like the init call. Could that also go through send message now? The only difference with the init call is that it has the polling. I don't think on the other ones we do polling. No, we don't. But I think instead of the ready event, we can also now send a result on init. So instead of just waiting for the ready event, we'll actually just send result data. Right. Let us get rid of the other two calls for a sec. Handle message event name ready. But don't do this. Now it'll time out, right? Okay. It'll eventually time out, but first it'll send a million poll thingies. So we kind of want to do the same thing as we're doing here. Where do we post the message here? We're doing it here. So here we want to do message equals this, right? So we want to send the message through here. And then when it comes back, we want to do the same kind of check on the return here. But for, well, if it works, it works, right? Wait, why do we do that here? No, I put that in the wrong place. Post message, handle interval. So we should have API handle message result data comes back as init, and then our check message is true. Okay. Boom. And then we don't need to do any of that. And that's the same as down here. Now, can I just move this up here? Can I reuse the API send message? The big difference is that we're doing an interval. Wait, okay, but everything else is similar. So if I make API send message a primitive and I use that for the init function, right? So I don't need to pull this out of the ops at all. So imagine I did this, right? And I would do this. Opt MSG. And the only difference between this and this is the interval. So if I do a try here, and then a finally, and we can grab the catch as well. We want to relabel it, right? We'll do the API send message. We don't need to do this. We do need to clear the interval. That goes here. And the handle interval is that. And then we're just clearing the interval. Handle message event. Message error timeout. Okay. Send message. What's coming in through here? This is gonna be spamming? No. What? Handle interval didn't fire at all. Oh, wait. Wait. Yeah, so we get a bunch of handle intervals, and then eventually handle message happens. And handle message true. Result on the init call. Cool. So we actually did that. All right. The timeout is a little. I think we want to we probably want to do this. JSON.stringify message. We'll probably want to put that. Whoops. In here. And then maybe we don't need to do that here. Now, if we change the timeout to 30, it'll timeout with error send message action init error API timeout. Yeah, excellent. And API timeout, maybe we'll, instead of calling it error API timeout. And that's fine, that's fine. The word error probably comes because it's an error object that we're stringifying. All right, so if we make the timeout more reasonable, and it won't timeout, okay, and then we want to get rid of the handle interval. Okay. And we probably just want to do this. We don't need all that stuff here. And then we just make sure we clear the interval once it's done. Now, the one problem I see is, are we going to get multiple result messages here? Like, if I just execute this a couple of times, like if I do this, for example, will we get multiple? Yeah. Will we get multiple result messages here? We're getting one. What if we do this and then do 3 of those over here? Is it true that we're getting that only once over here? I feel like I should be able to trigger multiple of these. So I'm getting one init here, but why does it stop the interval? Oh, because the response is too fast. No, but handle interval is getting run. I'm running it 3 times, so we should be posting 3 messages here. Shouldn't we? Like, post message definitely gets called more than once there. Yeah, we got a bunch of init post messages. We get 1 init received here. Handle message. Handle message. No, feature product 9x9. Handle message. Where is it? Feature project 9x9. Oh, because it's not ready at that point. All right. If we do the sleep 500 here, it might still not be ready though. 600. I think it was just over 500 milliseconds. Ah, yeah. Now it gets called a bunch of times. Is that a problem? So init gets called a bunch of times. Is this, I mean, it's not a problem in this case, because we're not doing that, right? But is it a problem if the interval was too short, for example? Like if our response is slow. Like, for example, if I say, wait, sleep 50. Like, I might have to have some rate limiting or something going on, I don't know. Yeah, so here it hits a bunch of times. Then init gets called a bunch of times, and then we get a bunch of results. So, the moment we get a result, handle message. Ah, no, but this is just a generic handle message. So API send message, handle message only seems to happen here. Ah, and then it's done. And the rest is noise that we're basically ignoring. Okay, that's good. That's kind of what I want. All right. And if we don't do the stupid thing here, it should be fine. Timeout MS and target isn't interested. Interval MS. For now, that's fine. Not to have that, I think. Then we'll just say await that. Right. And now we can bring these back in, and they should all work the same way. And I'm starting to get like, okay, I worked my way towards it. Maybe I would have been better off. Oh my god, it's almost 9, and I still need to walk Toby. Oh, poor guy. All right, I can't stream as long as I would like today. I'm dog sitting. How long has the stream been going? All right, we've been 2 hours. That's okay. All right, so we've got like the outline of the mechanics of the API going. I haven't implemented all the calls, right? But like these are, you know, like set digit. I mean, the rest is basically the same, right? So for example, let's do set corner mark or whatever. Set digit. So like this would be digit. We can do corner, and maybe we'll call it set digit and set corner. If I do set digit here, set digit. I'm gonna rename these. It right, and then we'll do something like ooh. I want to do this, and then we'll do set corner, and then this will be 3, 3, 5. So we'll do that, and then set corner. Basically, instead of just do press digit, I think we need to basically need to change tool. Do press digit. So do press digit. Nope. Is basically emulating pressing the button on the keypad. So we basically need to change tool. So we want framework.app.current.tool puzzle.tool nope. Framework.app.current.tool tools. Okay. So if the tool doesn't exist, we kind of have a bit of a problem, I think. Like, I don't think I can make a corner mark when the puzzle doesn't contain the corner mark. And with a tool limited setup. So maybe that's not the function we're gonna implement right now. Let's look at, so let's not do set corner for now. What was the other one? Restart puzzle. Let's do something like restart puzzle. So I think we did a restart here. So I'm gonna do restart puzzle, and I'm gonna move that up. And then where is, should I use here? App.restart puzzle. Okay, so we want to do this. Basically replace all of this, app.restart puzzle, and then we'll just do that. Right, so restart puzzle. That's a good test because it's like it's just there you go. So by not having the digit there, we know it's a restart. Yeah. Okay, so these kind of will actually be super easy. Probably the one we really care about is the thumbnail, right? So we want to do a create thumbnail. Boom. Boom. That, right? And then here, the create thumbnail. And now we're gonna do whatever we did here originally. This dot message thumb. Now, message thumb does what exactly? Because it eventually posts the thumb blob whatever message. So instead of doing this, why don't we return the blob from here? Like that. And then here, we'll be able to say that res equals await console.log res. I have dog hair on my keyboard. And if I do this now, target is not defined. What? Excuse me. How did that break? I don't feel like I touched that at all. Target. Oh. Ah, yes. Oh, okay. Boop equals ups. Do I do that? That'll work? That'll work? Okay, that'll work. And if I do this again, let's do this for a sec. All right, load puzzle, API action. API action. $54, 1 second. What's this one for? Oh. Okay. Now we get this, create thumbnail. We have blob. And prior, we were sending back just what exactly? I just deleted in that. So we have data. Data? Type data result. If I do this, does that work? Because now our handle message should still say true, but here, we should also be able to return whatever's in result, right? API result, resolve, data, API timeout. API timeout, does that return res? No, it does not. But now it does. And then I can do a return await. And then here we can resolve data.result. Right. And now down here we can say that, or we can just do let res equal right. And now, does that get us our blob here? It does. Okay, so that actually works quite smoothly. We can just pass the result straight through. It goes through the API timeout. It doesn't necessarily need to, does it? The result comes from where exactly? The result comes from here. Oh yeah, no, it's not going to the API time. Well, it kind of sort of does. Like we could just bypass that, right? But it makes the API timeout actually work more sensibly. That just returns whatever this promise resolves to. And then we get our image. Bada bing, bada boom, right? All right, I like this. This is not too bad. So we can call these like functions. They'll time out, they'll error out. So for example, we could also say, for example, let's say result type result, and then we'll say something like error, new error, fake error, right? So for example, if we did this, now we could also return type error. So we could, the alternative would be say type error, right? And then over here, where we're checking for API check result, can we check for error as well? API check result. If we do this, yeah, we don't actually. Okay, I'm thinking about if we should, if it's a type result or error, or if we want to check for the errors separately, or if we want to do because if we only check for this, right? Like, my brain. Sorry. If I say instead of result, I'll say return value or something. Return, right? And now we don't say data.data, right? We'll do this, and we get rid of that, right? And now here we'll do say if API check return, and we'll check data.data message, right? And I'll say we'll just do this. If I do this, yeah, so a bunch of stuff won't work now. The API check return. So if that's true, and if we say handle message, so if data.type equals result, then we'll do this. Return, boom. Right? But now we should get an error here somewhere. All right, and then we'll do this. If data.type equals error, return reject. Do we want to reject here, or do we want to throw? I think we need to reject, right? Yeah, I think so. Reject fn. Now we have a different error clause, because earlier we could get away with this. Because the only error clause we had was the timeout. It was handled elsewhere. So if I do this now, if I do this, and then I can do reject fn data.results. So now we should get an uncaught error in no, we shouldn't get that. API check return is true. Okay, wait, API check return is true. API check return is... Wait, what? I'm confusing myself here. It's true, but it's an error. So now it throws an error here. Turn await API timeout. So I'm catching the error here, and then I'm adding API send. I'm wrapping it in API send message. Like we're getting the fake error here. Uncaught in promise. Line 43. 43. Wait, resolve. This needs to be try caught now. Try. Res equals await res. Try catch error. Reject error. If I do this, resolve res. What does that look like? Test API error. API send message. Action create thumbnail. Undefined. Data.error. Right, maybe we don't need an error here. Maybe a string is enough. So, APS action create error, fake error. Okay. Don't know why it's an error like that, but it means it's getting passed through. This got a little bit more complicated. This we don't. No, that's that being used anymore? No. Get rid of that. Do that. Okay. And then we come back with the fake error. So now we can return errors as well as having our own local errors. And if I do this, cannot read properties of undefined reading action. 5-4. Every prop expected data. Wait, what? Cannot read properties of undefined reading action. API check return. Wait a second. Expected. Does it mean data is undefined at that point? It is. And where's that from? Well, there's only one place it can come from. What? Let me just see. Event name loaded. Yeah, so we probably want to check this as well. So if not, result not this or this, return. But we also want to do this, I think. Just see one dog here bouncing around my keyboard. That's bugging me. All right, post message gets spammed because it's our short interval. It's fine. All right. This all makes sense. We probably don't want that post message here anymore. Find post. Here we go. That handle message, where's that? 5-3. Probably don't want that anymore either. Now we're just gonna go properly via the API. Okay. Probably don't want the generic handler at the moment either. Which is this thing. Just put that in there. Okay. Handle message. Not anymore. Okay. API check return. We don't want that anymore. Init, fetch, load, restart, set digit, result. So wait. The result is from where? That it's over here. Line 500. Am I reading that right? Ah. Okay. And I don't need that. So now we do need to do potentially some error handling, but we have the timeouts on the other side, and we might, you know, shorten them a little bit, or things that aren't loading and initializing and all that. Yeah. And I think an API like that isn't too hard to grok, because you get results back as you expect, and you can catch your errors as you expect. What it doesn't do intuitively is that you can do potentially multiple calls in parallel. But you probably don't want to. You probably want to treat one iframe as a synchronous queue of commands. Yeah, and like the rest of the API should be fairly trivial to implement. Like these are all the same as set digit. Pause and unpause probably are just instantaneous events. Yeah, I don't think the rest is really particularly complex. Get state is just the usual result thing. In fact, we can probably make that happen. Although I am running late. So, for example, if we do this, we put that down here. Right, and then now this would be type result data and then result this. Right, and then over here we could probably do something like, you know, let's get rid of the timing stuff. I think we all know this stuff takes time. Right, and then I can just do this. And for create thumbnail, we can also do get state. Let's change it, get status. Get puzzle status. Puzzle status. I think puzzle status is descriptive. Puzzle status. Boom. Now we just say puzzle status. And puzzle status API timeout. Okay. Puzzle status. I misspelled it. Then we get the timeout, right? What if I use this as a case for returning something useful here? So instead of having a test error, we can have a real error. So this can just be this error, data error. I don't know where it pulled this brace from. Probably from the switch statement. This should just be Invalid request. Something like that, right? Boom. Completed false. Did I not change that back to puzzle status? Invalid request. Invalid request. Boom. Sweet. So we even have round trip error handling when it doesn't time out. This gets us our, for example, hey, completed false, yada, yada, yada. All right. Yeah, very happy with this. The implementation on this side isn't too bulky. I don't think it interferes with other people, you know, who aren't using this particular system. Need to streamline it a bit, make sure it doesn't willy-nilly fire events all over the place. I think that's it for today. I gotta take care of Toby. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Much appreciated. I don't know if some of you noticed there were some server outages. I'm working on it. I'm, you know, planning how I'm reorganizing the server a bit. I've set up a bigger server, but I haven't moved things over yet. It's kind of in a testing phase, early testing phase. I need to kind of do some data sync stuff. But it is running, so if the server breaks down again, I can make a move relatively quickly. Just don't want to rush it if I don't have to. I also tested rebooting, so next time it crashes, if people notify me, I can reboot it, so it should be back in a few minutes rather than in an hour. Yeah, I'm working on it. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out. Take care. I'll catch you in the next stream. Take care. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.